First of all, since 1900, the Western globalists have been attempting to build the two major enemies that will attack us someday, and that is Russia and China. They brought them to power. They created them. That doesn't mean that they control them, however. They've actually created independent enemies, and there's no shortage of them around the world. And, Satan is involved in inspiring evil men to rise up. A lot of people say, why can't we have peace in the world? The reason we don't have peace is because there is systematic evil in the world that will always continue to rise up. But we are having to deal with systematic evil within our own government, what I call the dark side of government. It has built Russia and China to basically tear down the fabric of the West and other liberty countries around the world, letting the globalists come in with an alternative solution to save them from communism, but ultimately not destroying communism, reserving for them the last final attack upon America, which I think is coming in probably 8 years at the earliest, maybe 10 years, but clearly into the next decade, because Russia and China aren't ready to attack the West. The entire political theater about China wouldn't dare attack us because we're their lifeblood of commerce isn't true at all. China, in fact, intends to take over the West, run its own new world order, impose its dictates upon us, and actually own the markets, not be hostage to the Western markets, but own the markets. In order to do that, they have to take out U.S. military power. But one of the interesting things they intend to do is not attack civilian cities. And this runs counter to what has been revealed or allowed to be leaked by the official China news agency about the attack plans on America. Another thing that I want to point out is that the United States is focusing on China as the threat. It's very interesting that they completely negate the Russian threat, which is even greater than the Chinese threat in terms of the missile throw capability. China is actually probably going to outproduce Russia in terms of conventional arms in preparation for World War III. That's what makes me believe that Russia is going to be the primary missile attack force. They've still got a lot of 80s and 90s technology, conventional weapons, but a lot of their conventional weapons are in disrepair, don't have enough submarines or blue water navy, even compared to China now, which was outproducing anyone in the world in terms of naval power. Within 10 years, it's going to be a formidable naval power. And a lot of people ask me, well, if they're going to use nuclear weapons to take out our carrier task groups, why are they building aircraft carriers? And my answer is they intend to take out our task force, and our U.S., unfortunately, is going to allow those task forces to be decapitated. And that's when China will bring out their aircraft carriers into kind of a nuclear-free zone where they'll be free to maneuver then in the aftermath of the nuclear first strike.
I mean, it's just there's no other thing that I can say coming out of all this that they do want to wreck the military, make us look weak, and then elicit this attack, as you've said.
Well, they certainly have put a lot of yes men at the top. I mean, the whole story about the Chinese being invited in to take part in this exercise in Hawaii is just treasonous. It is a military exercise. They're being allowed on our military destroyers, in our submarines. And even though these are general officers doing the tours, they've got eyes wide open trying to figure out everything they can from what we're doing in our military. And they learn a lot from military communications and protocols during these drills. So even though there are elements within the military who are very patriotic and who, in fact, do see China and Russia as the threat and are trying their best to prepare against that, the yes men at the very top are globalists. They get that kind of indoctrination at the Naval and Army War Colleges through globalists from Rand Corporation and Georgetown University that are professors at these things. And they come out, and their whole purpose after they put out their yearly report about Chinese military threat is to say, now the answer to this, of course, to have more military exercise with China, to show them that we're a friend, that we bend over backwards.
What are the secret weapons that they intend to, after we take the first strike, roll out against them?
Well, the primary secret weapons is, as you alluded to, is Star Wars space-based anti-missile systems are already deployed and operational. Now, they will not use these to defend America, which they could do so, but they won't. I think PDD-60 is very, very clear that they're going to take in a first strike from the Russians and Chinese to decapitate our military. That's why I don't recommend even as a patriotic former military officer, that anybody be in the military in the future. If not defending America, you're working unknowingly, under a globalist agenda. That's what all of the foreign wars are, to produce the image of the bully of the world, which we're quickly gaining, the ugly American again, which will help justify Russian Chinese attacking. We have fixed missile systems here on Earth. If you discount, what I'm talking to you about, the space-based weapons. We're fixed missile systems. We have no mobile missiles. The Russians and the Chinese have every one of those missile silos targeted. They have big, strong concrete doors, but they cannot take a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. They'll be taken out. So launch on warning means that when we detect that their missiles launching, we get our missiles out of our silos already, and so that when their incoming missiles, which can't change course, hit those silos, they're already empty. Now, if you wait until you absorb a nuclear first strike, those missiles are all gone. But in launch on warning, the one who launches second actually does the most damage, because they're retargeted as they're going up into the air, and they hit launch sites that have not been used yet, and they go after Russian and Chinese sites and targets that are still active. But I believe what's going to happen is that our military missile forces will not get the launch codes from the White House. It takes a special codes from the White House to be able to activate the codes that are had at Cheyenne Mountain and other places in the missile bases. And I just don't think they're going to get them. They're going to say, hey, come on, the missiles are coming in. Where are the codes? Technical communications can't get them to you. We're working on it, and we'll absorb a nuclear first strike. And it's going to be treasonous. It's going to be evil. But our government is going to come out of their bunkers, deep underground bunkers. They're not building those bunkers because of terrorist attacks. They're building those bunkers because they know a nuclear first strike is coming to America, and they intend to survive it.
Turning now to news here in the United States. Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano has announced today that she will be stepping down from her position in Washington.
You've said that a cyber 9/11 is not an if, but a when. What would a cyber 9/11 look like, and how soon could it happen?
Let me just give one that may come to mind, which is what happens when the electric grid goes down. We saw that during Sandy, and you see how that impacts everything from the ability to heat homes, to the ability to pump gasoline, to the ability to have lighting at night.
We have a mini EMP could be from a solar burst. We're now going through one of our most intense periods, 11-year cycle of the sun. And NASA has raised all kinds of concerns about that, especially if we were to get a direct hit. They're estimating that the cost could be upwards of $2 trillion, affect about 164 million people, take 4 to 10 years to recover if we get a direct hit.
An electromagnetic pulse can be devastating to the grid, and it is not something that has to be, or necessarily will be likely to be, carried out by an adversary. It can be carried out by the sun.
In recent days, top U.S. law enforcement officials, including the FBI director, have warned that there's a potential for a much bigger and much more consequential cyber attack in the near future. It was just yesterday that Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano said our country at some point will face a major cyber event that will have serious effects on our lives, our economy, and the everyday functioning of our society.
Of the very genuine danger of an electromagnetic pulse attack. This could be one of the most catastrophic events we've ever seen, and in some ways would be even worse than a nuclear weapon in a single city, because it could literally paralyze the whole country. It's a scientific fact. Virtually every physicist who's looked at it agrees it is a real danger.
We are only one act of madness away from a social cataclysm, unlike anything our country has ever known.
EMP is one of a small number of threats that could hold at risk the continued existence of U.S. civil society.
I want to think of that as a hurricane in space.
Just one violent active region on the sun can cause essentially continent-wide, perhaps even planetary scale impacts to our critical infrastructure.
The likelihood of a severe geomagnetic event capable of crippling our electric grid is 100%.